Easter coming up. The bunnies eat carrots, so it's a perfect Easter treat. Let's make carrot cake cinnamon rolls. I'm really excited to try this today because I've never actually made these before, but I think that they will be just delicious with the carrot cake kind of flavors and that classic cream cheese kind of frosting on it. I think it will be really good with that pillow soft cinnamon roll. So let's get into it.
And I cannot wait to dig into this. Now, full disclosure, I did end up making these a second time because the first time I just wasn't getting enough of that carrot cake kind of flavor. But after a few tweaks and adjustments, these turned out so good. And there's 3 main takeaways that will make a huge difference to your carrot cake cinnamon rolls. The first being to use brown sugar instead of white sugar in your cinnamon roll dough to really enhance that carrot cake flavor. The second being adding those spices to your cinnamon roll dough as well to again really enhance those carrot cake flavors. And lastly, add your shredded carrots in the last 2 minutes of your dough kneading. If you add it in too early, your dough is going to get too wet. And also, side note, use a round cake pan when you're making your cinnamon rolls. This is the first time I've used a round cake pan to make cinnamon rolls, and I will never go back. It gives such a nice, elegant kind of look to them. And for this recipe, you're going to need a 9-inch cake pan. And a 5 or 6-inch one if you like to use the scraps as well. Okay, I'm done yapping here. Let's get into it.
The absolute first thing you want to do with these cinnamon rolls is you want to make your starter. So you're going to combine 30 grams of water, 30 grams of flour with a half a teaspoon of instant yeast. Mix it, cover it with plastic wrap, and let it sit in a warm place for about an hour to an hour and a half until it starts to bubble and activate. This is what's going to really help these cinnamon rolls get that nice kind of fluffy texture that we're always looking for with delicious cinnamon rolls. So just start with that process, and it does take a little bit of time, right? You're letting it sit for like an hour and a half. And once your starter starts to activate a little bit, maybe after like an hour or so, you can go ahead and grab 2 large carrots or 3 medium-sized carrots, and you just want to grate those, peel them and grate them. You're looking for about a cup of grated carrots.
This part does get a little messy, so that's why I use a cutting board because it kind of flies everywhere just to catch all the carrots. All right, let's see if we have enough for about a cup. This looks about right, but let's just measure it just to make sure. Yeah, I think we're gonna have enough. So once that's done, just set that aside, and we're going to go ahead and make the cinnamon roll dough. And for those who like to measure in grams, this is give or take about 85 grams of shredded carrots.
Okay, so now that our starter is ready, you can see here it's nice and bubbly, it's activated. We're ready to start making the dough. So for this part, the first thing you want to do is you want to grab yourself a microwave safe bowl. You're going to add your milk and warm it up in the microwave for about 30 to 40 seconds till it gets that temperature of a warm bath. Then we're gonna add in our Greek yogurt, our instant yeast, and our sugar. Give it a good mix. Set that aside for about 10 minutes until it gets nice and frothy. And then we're going to add it to our dry ingredients. I am using whole milk here. That's just because that's what we have. That's all my toddler drinks right now. But you can use regular milk. Ideally not skim milk, something like whole milk or regular 2% milk. But if all you have is skim milk, obviously that will work as well. Okay, so now that the milk is nice and warm, we're gonna add in our Greek yogurt, our sugar, and our instant yeast. Mix it and set it aside for about 10 minutes. Okay, while that's activating, you wanna grab yourself a large bowl of a standing mixer, and you're gonna grab your beater, or not your beater attachment, your kneading attachment. If you don't have a standing mixer, that's okay. You can knead it by hand, but it's just a little bit more tedious and tiresome. So you're gonna grab your bowl, large bowl, and you're gonna pour in your dry ingredients, so your flour and your baking powder. And you're just gonna give that a nice mix until it's all well and incorporated. Okay, so our yeast is looking nice and activated. It's kind of bubbly and frothy. We're gonna add in our egg, give that a good mix. Then we're gonna add that to our dry ingredients. We're gonna add our starter in that as well. Give that a nice good mix. Start kneading it with the kneading attachment, and we're gonna add our butter in after. Important to note, this butter is room temperature and in cubes. You can add in the butter melted if you want, but I like doing it this way because it gives the dough a nice kind of buttery texture that's not quite melted yet, and then it melts when you bake it. And it's just a nice additional touch. And once the dough starts to form a little bit like this, you're gonna start adding in your cubed butter. And then you wanna knead this for about 10 minutes. And you're gonna add your shredded carrots in the last 2 minutes. So you can see here the dough is coming together. It didn't look like it at the beginning, but it does come together. This is about after 5 minutes of kneading. So we're just gonna knead this for another 5 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 9 minutes, so we're just gonna go ahead and add in the shredded carrots and knead this for another minute or two. And then we're gonna put it in a bowl and let it rise for about an hour. Okay, so you might just need to scrape the bottom of the bowl here just to get the carrots really well incorporated into the dough, because you can see here it's not incorporated. So just kind of mixing it by hand, and then we'll knead it for another minute or so. Okay, so some of it might stick to the bottom, and that's okay. This dough is a little wet, but not so much that it's sticking to your fingers here. Like you can see, you kind of poke into it and it's not sticking. That's the right kind of texture that you're looking for. So we're gonna put this in a lightly greased bowl, and we're gonna let it rise for about an hour to an hour and a half. So you just wanna grab a bit of olive oil and just spread it around a large bowl. You're gonna grab your dough and just roll it into a ball. Just gently kind of rolling it into a ball. And you're just gonna place it in the center of your greased bowl here, like this. Cover this with plastic wrap and place this in a warm place. Let this rise until it's doubled in size, or for about an hour to an hour and a half. And while the dough is rising, we can go ahead and make our cinnamon sugar filling. So we're just gonna grab our brown sugar along with all of our carrot cake kind of flavored spices. We're just gonna mix that all together, cover it, and set it aside until the cinnamon rolls are ready to be rolled. And we're also going to roughly chop our pecans to add to this cinnamon sugar carrot cake mixture. Alright, so once they're roughly chopped, a little bit something like this. You don't want too big of pieces, because you don't want to bite too hard into the cinnamon rolls. You just don't want them to be light and fluffy. And once that's done, you can add this to the cinnamon sugar mixture. I like to go in with my hands for the cinnamon sugar filling mixture, just to get all the sugar clumps out and make sure it's all nice and combined, because sometimes the spices can get stuck at the bottom of the bowl. So just giving that a nice good mix, and now we are going to add in our pecans. And again, just giving that a nice good mix. That looks so good.
cover this with plastic wrap and set that aside until the cinnamon rolls are ready to be rolled.
All right, so our dough has doubled in size, probably more than doubled in size. It's ready to go. It's been about an hour and a half in a warm place. So we're gonna roll this out. We're gonna put the carrot cake, cinnamon sugar filling in it. We're gonna let these rise again for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Then we're gonna bake them and eat them with the cream cheese frosting. So let's go. For the cinnamon sugar filling and the butter, there's two ways that you can go about this. You can go about melting the butter and placing your cinnamon sugar on top, or you can mix your cinnamon sugar with your butter or your margarine and then spread it on top. I've experimented with both of these and I personally prefer the melted butter, layering it on top and then spreading the cinnamon sugar. But it's totally up to you. You can do it with your personal preference. But if you do it this way, before you roll out your dough, you want to melt your butter. So once the butter is melted, set that aside. We have our carrot cake cinnamon sugar filling ready as well. Just having it right by your side, beside where you are rolling your dough. Can we say beside one more time? And if you're doing it the same way with the melted butter, just grab yourself one of these little baking paintbrush things. Okay, let's get into this dough. How good does this look? It has risen really well. Okay, let's get into it. So prepare yourself a lightly floured surface and we're gonna roll this out to about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch thick. Okay, so just grabbing a little bit of flour. You really don't need too much, just enough to kind of create a layer that will help it not stick to the surface that you're rolling it on. So really just like about a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. And you can just grab your dough and just directly place it on your surface. Oh, beautiful. This looks so freaking good. Okay, and I forgot to mention you're also gonna need a rolling pin. Okay, grabbing a little bit of your flour here. And if you feel like you need a little bit more flour, just go ahead and sprinkle some on. You just don't want it to stick, that's all. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit on top. And then you just wanna roll this out. Get the bubbles out and roll this out to about 1/4 inch thick. Ideally, you're trying to get it into a rectangle, but it's hard to kind of shape it the way you want. So just roughly a rectangle. Okay, so this is rolled out to about 1/4 inch thick. There are some places that are a bit thicker, but we're not going for perfection here. We're just going for something that tastes good. It's a nice large rectangle, so we're going to grab our little baking brush and just paint our dough with some melted butter. And you just want to get basically the whole surface, essentially. Paint it on with the butter. And once that's done, you can go ahead and sprinkle your cinnamon sugar. You want to try to get the edges as much as possible as well. I might just cut them off though, to be honest, because you just don't want to bite into a cinnamon roll that doesn't have the cinnamon and the sugar. So we can just cut those off too. So I'm just going to trim
the sides, not this way, but this way, just to get that nice clean kind of cut here. Okay. And then from here, we're just gonna roll it from the top, just gently but firmly kind of tucking it in. And there you go. I like to cut off the ends just to make a nice clean cut of the cinnamon rolls here, and we'll use those for another place. And then you can just cut these into about 1 inch thick. I'm just kind of guesstimating here. Okay. And just gently, you don't want to press down too hard. Wow. Look at how beautiful. Oh my God. Yeah, so just gently, ideally using a pretty sharp knife so that you're not pushing them down too much. Wow, these are beautiful. Oh my God, these are gonna be delicious. Yeah, so not pressing too hard because the dough is pretty soft. And then we're gonna put these in our pan after. Wow. I am just delighted.
And the last part of this process is the cream cheese icing. So while the dough is in its second rise or while it's baking, you can go ahead and make the cream cheese icing. As always, when we're working with cream cheese here and you're trying to mix it into something, you really want to let the cream cheese come to room temperature. So just take it out a few minutes before you're actually going to mix it in with the sugars and the vanilla. When we do this, it avoids any kind of clumps in the icing, which you really do want to avoid. Because no one wants to bite into clumpy cream cheese on your cinnamon rolls. Maybe some people do, but I don't. Maybe in other instances, we want clumpy cream cheese on a bagel, but not on your cinnamon rolls. Just let it soften a little bit. Okay, so for the cinnamon roll icing, it's super simple, just 4 ingredients. You're gonna need butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar, and vanilla. And the first thing you wanna do is melt your butter. So just pop it in the microwave for about 30 seconds until it's fully liquid. And once your butter is nice and melted, you are going to set that aside for a moment. You're gonna grab yourself a medium-sized bowl, grab your cream cheese, give that a nice beat. You're gonna beat it for about a minute or 2 until it's nice and creamy. Then you're gonna add your butter in, then your sugar, and your vanilla. And it's all gonna come together into this delicious cream cheese frosting that we're gonna add on to our cinnamon rolls. All right, so this is softened, room temperature. Just gonna beat this. Just mixing it for about a minute or so until it's nice and soft and creamy. So this is nice and velvety and creamy, so we're gonna add in our melted butter.
we're also gonna add in our vanilla. Just like that, and give that a nice good mix. I promise it will come together. And just keep mixing until you get a nice, smooth consistency here. It's coming. All right, so we've got a nice, creamy kind of texture. We can add in the sugar now, ideally using a sifter if you have one, just to avoid the clumps. But if not, you can just add it in on its own as well. And just sifting it in. And then we're just gonna fold this gently and we'll have our icing. When you're about halfway, you can also kind of fold it in. I think this bowl is not big enough. So, okay, just gently folding it in, trying not to make a mess until it all comes together, and then you can just add in the remaining sugar. Okay, I'm changing bowls because that was not large enough. Much better. All right. And just folding it in. Here it's starting to come together. Beautiful. Okay, so now it's nice and creamy. That's our icing. It's ready to go. So we're just gonna set this aside until the cinnamon rolls are done. Look at how beautiful. Can't wait.
Okay, so our cinnamon rolls are done with their second rise. Oh my God, these look so good. So we are going to preheat the oven to 350. We're gonna grab a piece of tin foil, lightly butter it, and place that on top of the cinnamon rolls. And we're gonna bake these covered for about 22, 23 minutes. We're gonna take off the cover after that and keep baking them for about 5 minutes to give them that nice golden brown kind of look. And then we're gonna let these cool and spread some icing on them and eat them. Now this part is optional, but you can pour some heavy cream into your pan before you place the tin foil on top. This has been kind of circulating around as a way that makes them a little bit kind of more sticky at the bottom, kind of makes them more creamy, I guess. So you can add like 3 tablespoons to your pan if you want. It's optional. You might need to use a knife on the edges here, just so it doesn't stick and pull apart. Okay, beautiful. Oh my God, wow. And you can grab it by the parchment paper here and put it on a cutting board or a plate, whatever is your preference.
beautiful. I mean, how pretty does this look? Not even with the icing. It's crazy. Love it. So now that this has cooled down, we can go ahead and put our frosting on. Okay, now the telling sign that you've made really nice cinnamon rolls is that it just pulls off like that. Yes. My toddler's sleeping, so I have to be kind of quiet with this. But look at how good. I wish the glare would stop. Anyways, these look absolutely delicious, and I love it so much more in a round pan. It really gives that nice, elegant look. So let's dig in. That is so good. So much better. This iteration is so much better. Extra cinnamon and those spices inside the dough itself make it so much better. Also adding a little bit more cinnamon to the cinnamon sugar filling really makes a difference. This is a perfect recipe to make overnight. So you make the dough the night before, and then you roll it out in the morning and you bake it. Super easy, really great for like brunches or breakfasts, or even kind of like if you're looking for a dessert or a snack, mid-afternoon snack. It's perfect. And also with Easter coming up, that was originally my idea. The bunnies eat carrots, so it's a perfect Easter treat. You can also use walnuts instead of pecans. I think the walnuts are better. So good. So good.